Pelane, thank you so much for your time. Now, earlier, you went to the Limpopo River. Tell us what you saw there.
Well, I would have wished to have crossed live for you guys there to show you the amount of desperation to cross into South Africa from the Zimbabwean side, but reception really quite bad in the area. But what I can tell you that we saw was that there are scores of people that are using canoes to try and get across the Limpopo River, despite the fact that it is crocodile infested, and they want to cross into the country illegally, of course, and then move into the Beitbridge area and then into the Mosina town and wherever else that they want to go. So we've seen that desperation. Our colleague Itekane Magwedze did the very same story around early December last year, giving you an indication about the fact that even though there are some sort of hindrances in the main border post, then some people have opted to go through and make use of, one could say extreme measures to get across either to Zimbabwe or into South Africa. But what the indication that we are getting currently within the official border post here in Beitbridge, of which we are just standing outside, is that there has been little movement since we were last inside, where they were retesting COVID-19. The people that are coming from Zimbabwe side, that is, they were retesting COVID-19 because they have been standing on the queue for over 48 hours. Therefore, the regulations do not allow them to enter South Africa with results which are 48 hours plus old. Therefore, need to retest again, and therefore creating the number of queues, the long queues that we've seen earlier on, Unati. Quite devastating, with other people telling us that they have been on the queues for about 2 to 3 days, no food, no water whatsoever, and dependent on what they get on the road, either being sold as it is, either it is water that is hot, despite the fact that there's scorching heat here. You just had to endure until it was your turn to produce your documents to the officials.
Now, you mentioned the word desperation, and I can tell you this much, that tells us a lot about the situation in Zimbabwe. You spoke to several people waiting in those queues. What are they saying about just how desperate they want to get into this country?
They are so desperate because they want to get away and move into South Africa, where they can be able to trade easily if they are informal traders, and of course be able to get essentials quite easily. When Zimbabwe got into a hard lockdown, now there have been questions on how exactly are they going to ensure that people get food, as opposed to here in South Africa, where there were grants that came through and to try and assist persons with disabilities, women who are unemployed, and the youth who are unemployed. But the question now is, for 30 days, how are people going to be making an income, despite the fact that there are no essential services? And that is the desperation coming through from people in Zimbabwe. Remember that people also make use of the border on a daily basis to go make their shopping at the Mosina town, which is about 10 kilometers from the border post, and return back into their homes. So if it is a daily routine, now unfortunately for the duration, for the last 4 or 5 days, it had to be more than that. You had to wait for 3 to 4 days. And even, earlier on the day, we talked to one gentleman, Unati, who was telling us that he had gone to visit, he's a South African, and had gone to visit a family in Zimbabwe, and now they were stranded. And his car was out of fuel. He did not have any money, and had left children in the vehicle and had queued for 3 days only to get fuel on the other side of South Africa and return back to continue the very same queue so that he can be able to assist his children to come back into South Africa. So that desperation to leave Zimbabwe before the hard lockdown was instituted, and of course thousands are still waiting to be processed.
And in fact, in some quarters, the scenes that we've been seeing at the Beitbridge border post, as well as the Limpopo River, have been described as a humanitarian crisis. What are officials saying to you, Pelane?
Well, I think yesterday, as the Minister Aaron Motsoaledi was on Newzroom Afrika talking to our colleague Bongiwe, he did mention that as far as he was concerned, there was work being done to try and reduce the number of queues, or the long queues that we've been seeing, and did not want to come through or to be drawn to answer whether this is a humanitarian crisis currently. But I do know that he previously said that it was a humanitarian crisis waiting to happen, but did not want to be drawn to answering that it was currently a humanitarian crisis, and saying that officials are working very hard to ensure that people who are eligible to come into South Africa come through with negative COVID-19 results. One, and number two, they come through with proper documentation, it be your passport, and that passport should be eligible for use for one to come into South Africa. So the answer into the humanitarian, of course, in itself will remain it's a debatable issue. But we have seen the catastrophe in the morning, the videos that we've seen yesterday, where people were literally pushing one another up on the rail to try and make their way into the border post, so that they are on time for the curfew. In the Zimbabwean side is 6 o'clock in the evening, and in South Africa 9 o'clock, so that they can get processed and get to their destination before those particular curfews. So it was a little bit of a catastrophe yesterday, and this morning, of course, as you've seen, as we were reporting live for you there.